My name is Brittany. I grew up in an orphanage for special kids. Being among special kids should mean that I don't feel any different, right? Yet everyone still thought I was a freak because I walked on all fours, like an animal. Due to this, I spent so many years in the orphanage because nobody wanted me for adoption. I was hopeful for the first few years, since all my friends in the foster home who had other different conditions had gotten adopted. Like the girl with one eye that we called Cyclops, and the boy with his arms twisted behind him due to a bone disorder. But nobody ever came for me. This made me sad. One day the director of the orphanage told us that the orphanage was no longer funded by the government, and he would have to close it soon, which meant sending us all out. We had 1 month before the closure, and I was very afraid because I knew no one could adopt me before then. On the 3rd week, I was called by the director of the orphanage because someone wanted to see me. I was excited by this news. I knew definitely that my time had finally come, and I could finally have a family of my own. When I crawled into the room, a woman screamed and ran out of the room. It turned out she was interested in adopting a child but freaked out when she saw me. She adopted someone else because she could never deal with having a child who crawled on all fours. So, once again, I had been rejected. I spent that night crying alone in my bedroom. The day of closure came, and I had already packed my bags, preparing myself for the worst, when I was summoned into the director's office. I met a couple there, and I was told they were to adopt a child and asked specifically for me. I was shocked, but I was also happy. I had escaped living on the streets with no one to take care of me. I was introduced to the couple, and they seemed very nice. They smiled all through and looked at me in a way no one else had ever. I felt loved. I packed my bags and crawled into their car with them. Then we drove off. I noticed they both kept looking at me with amusement. The ride was quite a long one. We arrived at a circus. It turned out my new family owned this circus. I had only ever read about circuses in books, but now I could live happily ever after in one. I got comfortable in my new home, and life was beautiful for a whole, from then onwards until everything changed for the worse again. My foster parents suddenly became mean. They made me do dirty chores and starved me, and didn't feed me until I performed at the circus as one of the attractions. They called me Female Tarzan, and made me act like a monkey. No one suspected I was suffering because I was forced to smile while I performed, and the crowd would cheer and throw me bananas. I would jump from bar to bar in the cage and eat the bananas. They were the only food I got to eat. I couldn't even escape. The circus was in a remote area. Once I tried to escape, but I was caught. I wasn't fed for 3 days and got locked in a dark room. I lived terribly like a circus freak for months. My situation got worse every day. It felt like there was nothing I could do until I got a brilliant idea to leave for good without getting caught. I was going to scare my foster parents by acting like a feral animal, have them trapped, and escape as fast as I could. I had a lot of practice from my performances and observations of lions in the circus. One night, I secretly used straws to costume myself like a lion. I crawled silently to my foster parents' room, got on their bed, and roared like a lion. They screamed heavily and scattered out of their bed, screaming and running out like cowards. It felt good to make them freak out that much after all they'd put me through. They were so scared that they just ran for their life and didn't care about anything. I ran out of the circus towards the gate and into freedom. I had gotten so used to walking on all fours that I ran as fast as I could until I saw a bus. I hollered as loud as I could. The driver didn't want to stop at first, but he did eventually. He told me he had been scared because he thought I was a wild animal, until he realized it was a human scream. I told him everything I'd been through, and he drove me to the nearest police station. I reported everything I'd gone through with my crazy parents. An investigation was conducted, and they got into a lot of trouble. I was taken care of by child services for a short time. Luckily, I found a new home eventually where the family actually loves me. Surprisingly, they're also the couple who adopted my friends from the orphanage, and we're all getting along as we always have. My new parents are also willing to support all my dreams, so when I told them I wanted to be a gymnast, they enrolled me into a school. I guess sometimes our disabilities are not actually to deprive us of abilities. They're to make us more able to survive and beat the odds.